Okie dokie, we're back out here at the cotton plot. Whoop. And there is a water testing kit for the well, which just fell out of my hands. So it's been a week now. Well, week minus 12 hours since I planted. Wasn't anything up last night, so I'm not even going to bother looking. There's not going to be anything up right now. I'll look anyway, but I'm not going to look at the moment. So we're back out here to test the drinking water here. And to do that, we're going to need to collect 2 water samples. And because they need to be sterile and uncontaminated, I'm just using empty single-serve water bottles. So I'm going to use this, prime the well. This water test kit checks for bacteria, pH, alkalinity, copper, lead, nitrates and nitrites, chlorine, and hardness. And there's basically 3 main tests. The one for all the chemical contaminants, one for lead specifically, and one for coliform bacteria. I'm assuming that's just a gram-negative test. So first things first, we're going to prime the pump. Once that's done priming, we're going to purge the pump. And we are using these single-serve water bottles as sterile, contaminant-free, bacteria-free containers in order to transport this back to the office to test it, because I don't feel like doing it out here. And here are our bottles of well water. As you can see, they're delicious and appetizing looking and don't look like sort of, I don't know, clay-filled water. We'll test it, haul this back to the office, see what's in it. Hopefully nothing crazy dangerous. Probably not. I've got confidence, but, you know, confidence is nice. Assurance is better. Alrighty, so we're in the office. We have the water test kit set up. So I'm going to just run through and do everything with the chemicals. The bacterial one has to sit for 48 hours, but not more than 72 hours. And I'm not going to be here for the next 3 days. So I'm just going to take that home and do that at my house so I can check it at home. But everything else I'm going to be doing here today. We've got a lead test, nitrate test, a copper test, and a 4-in-1 water check. We've got 2 of the nitrate, and 2 of the 4-in-1. So that's nice. I'll just be doing one of those today. And we've got our results card over here. And as I do everything, I'm just going to immediately mark them with this because these apparently don't last very long. Okie dokie, I've done the water testing kit and everything came back good. Lead was not the lowest possible, but it was definitely a negative result. pH is actually kind of high. It was 5, which I find odd because the soil pH is in the 6s, but apparently the water table all the way down there is rather acidic, which I find surprising. This was the worst result at everything, was this 5. Alkalinity was good. It was between 0 and 40 parts per million. Chlorine was good. It was at 0.2 parts per million. And hardness was a lot lower than I expected. It was actually closer to 50 parts per million. It was in between 50 and 120. It was closer to 50. Let's see. Nitrates were practically nothing. They were between the first section and 0. I was expecting the nitrates to be a little bit higher. And the copper was 0.05 parts per million. So everything checks out good except the acidity. I find this low pH interesting. It's odd. It doesn't seem like that should be correct considering the soil pH is closer to this. So I don't know why that would be so low. I mean, it is a lot deeper down in the soil. It's mostly clays. That type of soil is usually closer to 5 in this region anyway. The only thing I can think of is it has something to do with why this hardness is so low, because typically the water, deep water in this area is very hard because there's a lot of calcium deep down in the in the lower geologic layers. So the only thing I can really think of is that this area was probably salt marsh many years ago. Maybe there's some sort of like old bed down in there. There's some sort of sulfur bearing layer down there. Maybe there's a phosphate layer underneath this property, and I'm tapping into that, and it's releasing sulfates into the water in the pipe, and they're forming sulfuric acid, and it's raising the acidity in the local groundwater. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I am not a geologist. I'm just pulling that off the cuff, so that's probably wrong, but that's my hypothesis. All I know is that that's kind of acidic, and probably shouldn't drink too much of it for that reason and that reason alone, because everything else looks great. They're all safe. They're all better than I thought they'd be. I just noticed this, so that might be why I'm getting such a low pH. My alkalinity was like super low, so that's probably messing with the pH reading, and that's given me such a low number. I'm going to do another pH test with a regular pH test strip and not whatever this fancy inaccurate thing is, and I'm going to test that independently and see what this is. So I don't think it's that low. I think it's probably closer to 6. Maybe not 6.5, but definitely closer to 6 than 5, because it was almost between 4 and 5, which would be crazy. So we're gonna test that again over the weekend and see what it gives. The last test we have is the bacteria test, and because, as you can see down there, it takes 48 hours in order to incubate, but not more than 72 hours. I'm not going to be here for the next 72 hours, and you're also not supposed to disturb this or have it exposed to direct sunlight after you start it. So I'm just going to take this home and do it over the weekend, and I'll give you the results whenever they show up. If this turns yellow, then there are harmful bacteria in it, and if it turns purple, there aren't. I'm assuming this is just a gram-negative test since it's using purple staining. Gram-negative bacteria are those that are typically pathogenic, so if this comes back as yellow, then it means that the bacteria are not accepting the purple stain, which means that there's some sort of dominant pathogenic bacteria in the water. I'm not quite sure how this works, because I would think that, if I had a perfectly sterile solution, it wouldn't turn yellow. I don't know how they do this. I'm not a microbiologist. I'm not a geologist. I'm not a microbiologist, not a hydrologist. I just look at bugs. So we'll just follow the instructions and see how it do. Okay, so I got home and I did a quick pH test, and as you can see, the water is very clearly 6, maybe 5.7 pH. It is definitely not 5. It is somewhere between 6 and 5, closer to 6. It's getting a little darker with time. I don't know why, but this fly seems to really, really like pH paper. That's not a fly. That's a bug. And there's my bacteria test kit. It's incubating for another 48 hours. It's been about 60 hours and this thing is still purple. So that's a good sign. And it looks like the well checks out perfectly. There's no contaminants and no bacteria. But I'm probably not going to start drinking it anytime soon because that stuff just tastes funny.